Brandy, who is our Director of Public Relations. We've got Diana, one of the heads of our psychology investigation research department. And then there's myself, Fancy Maselli, and I'm the executive producer of By Proxy. So tonight I wanted to start off by saying, first of all, that anything that we discuss in these videos are our opinions based on the research and different things that we have looked into while making this series and making this YouTube channel and our podcast and all those things. While we have, definitely have some people who have some degrees and different things, that is not our only source of information. We have been reaching out to experts in the fields. We've also done independent research, reading different articles and things from the medical journals and things like that. And then we just basically analyze what we've read and discuss it in what we've seen pertaining to the case with the documents, the medical files, everything else. So anyway, Diana, you've been on before on our Facebook page, but you haven't been on our YouTube channel just yet. So I'd love it if you would introduce yourself and kind of give a little bit of explanation of your credentials and what you have been doing with the series.
All right. So my name is Diana. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. I've used that in the past for numerous years to counsel adolescents, both in the home, in school, working with the court systems, DCS and whatnot, for a range of different disorders. I'm not licensed. I have the bachelor's degree, which means I can go and conduct interviews, discuss, and counsel, but not diagnose.
Okay.
Now, also in turn two, I'm an LPN with years of experience in that field as well now.
Okay. Okay. And you're currently a director of nursing, correct?
Assistant director of nursing. Yep.
Yep. Okay. Awesome. Okay. And so what have you been doing with our case and kind of how have you been working on it?
And one of the department heads of the research investigation side, I've been helping gather the documents and stuff for all of the sides now, DeeDee, Gypsy, Nick, even the families, the Petries, the Blanchards, and finding as much background as we can on them to find out as much as possible why these events happened. Because it's not just, well, DeeDee was sick and, we've been trying to trace it back even further than that, to DeeDee's mom and see what caused all of this to happen. So I've been doing as much as I can on obtaining those documents, going through them, and giving my opinion on them.
Okay. And so today, one of the things that we looked at was an article called Childhood of Munchausen by Proxy Moms. And I'm going to go ahead and link all of the different things that we talk about as far as like sources and everything. It'll be down in our description in the YouTube video, as well as when we post about it. So I just want to make sure you guys have those, but this was an article that I read today, and it's based off of a 2005 United Kingdom study, and the researchers interviewed 67 mothers who had been in court for child maltreatment arising from abnormal illness behavior. So basically, Munchausen by proxy or factitious disorder imposed upon another, they had been brought up against charges for this. And one of the things that I thought was interesting was that they had talked about that there are two different types of attachments, or that there are different attachment styles. And there's 4 main attachment styles, and 65% of people are secure. And so a secure attachment was like secure, explorative, happy. So, and then there's insecure, and that's broken up into 3 different types of attachment styles. So there's avoidant, which the general state of being would be non-explorative, emotionally distant. Then there's 10 to 15% of people identify as ambivalent, which is distant, anxious, insecure, angry. And then the last one is 10 to 15% of people, it's called disorganized, and it's depressed, angry, completely passive, and non-responsive. So in the study, they were talking about how all of the women fell under one of the 3 insecure attachment styles. So Diana, do you know about attachment styles? Can you tell us a little bit about those and what you think about them?
A lot of the stuff that I've done with attachment issues in the past with children has a lot to do with lack of attachment.
Right.
So not forming that bond with the parent, whether it be for a medical reason on either the parent or the child's side, that really just hindered that caregiver attention for the child, which can hinder stuff such as education and whatnot, because you have to meet certain needs.
Right.
And one of your first ones is belonging and feeling that sense of that someone cares for you, somebody cares about you, and especially at a young age, that's very important for you to further your information.
Okay, so when it's talking about securely attached children, what the article had said was they have a parent who's emotionally available, appropriately responsive, and is able to see and accept the negative and positive attributes of her offspring. But then if you're insecurely attached, those children have a parent who are either distant and disengaged, inconsistent, sometimes they're sensitive, sometimes they're neglectful, or they're extremely erratic. So is that what you're kind of thinking is
Yes.
accurate? Okay.
Yes,
all right.
Most definitely. Yeah, because you see those issues, and they can spill over into the child's schooling and stuff too. Because especially when you get home and I didn't really get this. Let's see if mom or dad can help me with it. Well, it doesn't always have to do on if they understand it, but if they actually care and want to sit down and spend that time with that child.
Right. And so this carries over into them being an adult and how they interact with their own children and adult relationships.
Most definitely, I would say.
So 85% of the women in the study described an insecure, ambivalent attachment with both their own parents and their children. And then something that I thought was really, really super interesting was that 50% of them reported either physical and or sexual abuse as children. So, and that's been brought up before concerning DeeDee and Gypsy as to whether there was or there wasn't. And we've never substantiated any claims either way. But I mean, obviously she had DeeDee at least had an unusual type of relationship with her own mom. And I think that there was some favoritism and some strange different things with her dad. And it's been alleged, that maybe that's not her dad, maybe it is her dad. I mean, so there's all kinds of different rumors that fly around concerning that. And I think all of that could definitely, impact this, don't you?
Yes, most definitely. Most definitely.
Yeah. So then there was also a significant subgroup that demonstrated a type of attachment known as insecure or dismissing a tendency. It's a tendency to dismiss a child's distress at times of illness, fear, or loss. So would you think that would fall into the Munchausen by proxy category, especially with DeeDee?
I could see where it could, because it really does. Like I said before, it not even just educational. We talk about it spills over into different areas, especially in those times when you really need something like that.
Yeah, and I was thinking about the one document that we read. Brandy, do you remember looking at it? The one that was about the eye doctor, where it said that they had told Gypsy and DeeDee about the different things that could happen, or and they went ahead and they wanted to do it.
There were several, a couple of them, I believe, that they would list the side effects. This is what we could face these, but you have so much chance. Well, let's do it anyways.
Right.
And that we've seen that several times in the documents that I've just been looking through for the eye doctor. And that's over I think like a 5-year period. I'm trying to think of the years on that. It was pretty significant. It was
at least 10 surgeries. And in every single time it talks about, the doctor would say, well, this could be beneficial in this, but really, truthfully, these are the things that could go wrong and concerns, and then she still just went ahead and did it. And it was always that the mother says, nope, I want to go ahead and do it. So that would seem to be this kind of thing where she's dismissing any type of fear or anything that Gypsy would have doing this. Yeah,
most definitely. Because on a medical side on that, I mean, you have to look to see if the risk outweigh the benefits. But in cases like that, it doesn't seem like the risks would outweigh the benefits.
Right.
And it's just really concerning because, especially in this case, something as important as eye surgery, that could be extremely risky. I mean, we're looking at bleeding, vision loss. I mean, a whole lot of important aspects of daily life that could have been affected.
Right.
It's a very small area to go under the knife.
Yes.
10 times at that.
Right. Right.
Which indicates, and it was usually the same surgery, which indicates that it wasn't really doing anything to help get
if we
it
have
better.
to keep doing it.
I mean, because it's not, what I read about that specific thing, those different things that were happening, was that it was a series of things, of surgeries that would happen, but that after big 2 to 3 surgeries, if there wasn't being improvement, then they wouldn't continue, because it wasn't something that she had to have done. And even at one point, they discussed for her to just try wearing these glasses and returning within 4 to 6 weeks. She never returned.
They really were almost elective surgeries.
Yes, they weren't medically necessary.
Right. They weren't necessary to fix.
They were not medically necessary.
Right. So, okay. And then, I mean, this was such an interesting thing, because it really talked all about the moms and how, what characteristics these Munchausen by proxy moms generally have. And so then one of the things that I thought was really interesting that they listed was there's usually 3 different related factors. Like if you have any one of these, then it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll become a Munchausen by proxy mom, but most of them indicate all 3 of these. So when it comes together, it creates this person who ends up kind of putting this onto another person, and it's their own issues that they have. And there were 3 things. It was death of a close family member, either in childhood or adulthood. And then it was physical symptoms getting attention from the family in the background. So if they, are seeing that because they're physically ill, they're getting some sort of attention themselves, then they begin to do this with another person. And then the third one was a chaotic or abusive home. Well, I don't know whether DeeDee had an abusive home, but definitely with as many brothers and sisters as she had, and her father going back and forth to, being out on the boat because of being the captain, I would definitely say chaotic. We've talked many times to the Petries about the fact that DeeDee claimed she was sick all the time. She got favoritism for being sick. She'd have to do chores. She got out of things. She was given things. So that's definitely
a vehicle.
Right. Yeah, and several vehicles, they said. It wasn't just one vehicle.
And none of the other siblings got this treatment that she did. But it was always, like you said, getting out of chores because she was sick or she didn't feel good.
Right. And then the death of a close family member, I talked about this the other day with Titania and Colleen, about that. I feel like maybe the death of her mother, I know that there's some things that are, surrounding that death that are questionable, but nobody can prove it. But I'm thinking, because when we see the beginnings of where this started, yes, she had sleep apnea when she was little, her mom claimed. Yes, there were a couple different things that happened, but a lot of this centers around right after starting when her mother passed away. Yep. And she was the caregiver for that mother. So I feel like possibly we switched over from caring for her mom to caring for this excessive amount for Gypsy. She has a need to care for people because
it made her feel important.
Right. Well, it's the only way she connects, right? I mean, she doesn't connect in normal ways to people. We've seen that by many of the people that we've talked with. Titania talks about her as a younger person, as a friend. She was not a good friend. And the siblings have all talked about not having any type of real connection with her. Even when she was at functions, she wouldn't participate. She'd stand off to the side and kind of almost like, I'm better than all of you, So, and then another one of the articles that I was looking at was that these other 5 cases that I really do think we should start looking into, because I want to do, one of the things that we'd like to do with this is to show the patterns of these behaviors in Munchausen moms, so that maybe we can identify some things that for professionals to be looking for all the time, and so there was the Lacey Spears, there's Blanca Montano, Hope Ibarra, going way back is like one of Mary Beth Tenning, who had 9 children who all ended up with SIDS.
And her statement, it floored me when they said, if you have the death gene, why do you keep having children? Because that's what women are supposed to do.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Well, that's
at a certain point in time.
Right.
And that goes into some of the other cases that we're looking into with Good Wives. Like I started writing down, you started with Diane Downs, right, Brandy? And I had mentioned, Sharon Smith was another one that I wanted to look into. And I thought that was interesting. In some of those things, I'd like to make a comparison of these moms who kill their children, and what causes that, because that's such an odd thing. And
it's not a normal behavior at all. Yeah.
And it sure does. It sure does play into this in the same way, because it's that same type of behavior, just a different reaction. Yeah, because it's so interesting. And I really do believe, I still believe that DeeDee would have killed Gypsy eventually.
There had to have been an end at some point in time, and I agree with you on that, Fancy. You know that there was sadly going to be an end, and that's the only end that I saw.
Yeah, because you can't carry that kind of light on it for indefinite. I mean,
exactly, she couldn't have always been that young.
Right.
Well, she couldn't have always been that sick. And,
exactly.
And it was kind
of the leukemia before. You don't always have.
Right. I mean, we can explain the shaved head like we did calling the other day with possibly medications or things like that she could have.
Well, there's been several medical professionals that have said all the medicines that she was given do have side effects that mimic diseases she claims. So
one of the other
never-ending cycle, a never-ending cycle with all of it.
Right. So one of the other things. One of the other studies that I looked at was a 2006 AOB study of 30 different children who have been diagnosed with having moms who had this Munchausen by proxy, and what the different things were normally claimed in all of them. So they did a study of 30 different children. 23% of them had gastrointestinal symptoms, vomiting, failure to thrive, reflux, chronic secretory diarrhea. That was 23%. 30% of them had recurrent seizures. 13% of them were said to have abnormal serum insulin levels. 10% had a rare autoimmune or genetic disorder. 10% had unexplained asthma. 7% were poisoned or feigned bleeding difficulties. 10% of psychotic or psychiatric or learning disabilities that were exaggerated or fabricated. And 20% of them was repeated apnea. Now, if you look at that list, I mean, what is Gypsy had 90% of that?
I was sitting here going, wait, did she have that one? Wait, there was that one. And then, wait, there was that one.
Right.
Yeah.
There a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah. All of those are things, like we just said, that could have easily been mimicked from other medications.
Right.
There are a lot of medications that could cause seizures. There are a lot of medications, if you have somebody in the family that was on insulin, easy to inject somebody with insulin and throw off their serum insulin levels. All of that stuff. Asthma. If you know what their trigger is, let's go stick them outside with fresh cut grass. The GI issues, that's probably the easiest one. I mean, you can easily slip them a pill to make them go or make them not go. I mean, all of that stuff was easily mimicked by other medications.
Right. And one other thing we were looking at was the fathers that play into this. Now, in a two-parent home, the fathers actually are most often they support their wives in spite of clear evidence of abuse. They even encourage the children to support their mothers when their moms are being questioned, and so I think about Rod and his involvement. The other thing was like the lack of a two-parent home where the father is removed. It helps him. It helps her to continue her thing. It helps them to alienate the father. And on top of that, these fathers, they choose to not be involved because it just becomes
too much,
overwhelming. And, I'm not criticizing Rod in not being involved. He's doing what a lot of fathers do. I send a check and that was the end, and I think that it was,
I didn't know what else to do.
Right. Out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. And it doesn't make him a terrible dad. It doesn't. I mean, he's done a lovely job with his other children, but when he was young, it is a pattern for young fathers, and he did it with two children.
It was just.
But that's the thing you have to remember. At that time, he was concerned, he was 17. I mean,
and she was 24.
Right. He was still a kid.
Yeah.
And I think he realized that. So, I mean, he definitely could have been worse. He could have just not even paid child support.
Right.
And so it doesn't make him a horrible father, but it also doesn't make him father of the year.
Right. And in these cases, when the father is removed from the home, it was saying that most moms claim that there's abuse. They claim that the father has done different things. They even claim that the father is the abusive one to the child and causing these things in the child. So, I mean, I feel like in a lot of ways, you know, I mean, this is classic with Rod, you know, and how he was dealt with. And I guess after a while, I mean, maybe he just gave up that fight, you know, like, what is it worth it? It's just, you know, she has a good relationship with her mom. Her mom takes really good care of her. Fighting with her mom, maybe that's not the best thing for me, you know? And that's what the study was saying, is that many of the fathers just give up because they don't want to harm the child in any other way.
Right. The one mom in the list of those women, is it Lacey, is it Spears? Yes. Garnett's mom? She claimed the dad had died. And that wasn't even the truth.
Right. Yep. Right.
And so that was a whole nother, I was like, oh, I'm going to have to finish reading on this one, because that was interesting to see that she had claimed dad died, got more attention.
Right. Well, and DeeDee didn't claim that Rod died. However, she claimed that her and Rod had another child together, which was Dylan.
Right. Yeah.
And that he was dead.
Yeah.
That's what more sympathy. You know? It was crazy. So anyway, so going into now kind of the things of, I want to talk a little bit about the power of attorney. And basically what that would have psychologically maybe said to Gypsy. So I have it. I have the different ones, and I'm going to put them in the Patreon account. Basically, I wanted to show, you know, this is the paperwork that we have here, and it shows in this 3 different birth dates just in these papers. So we have 3 of them. Like,
are they 3 separate power of attorneys?
Yes, it's almost exactly the same. 2 of them are different. Like so there's 2 that are the same exactly except for the dates. And then there is 1 that's completely different and has an additional date on it. So 3 different dates, 2 different documents, none of them have been filed actually with the city or the county of Greene, even though it says that it was. They are not filed. So it's just crazy to me. And basically this power of attorney specifically was to manage business, property, investments, financial, and tax affairs, to arrange for my support, comfort, housing, and welfare, and for the support, education, comfort, and welfare of my heirs and those persons who I may be supporting at the time I become disabled and not able to manage my affairs, to authorize and arrange for my personal care and medical treatment, and to make inter vivos, I don't know, and at death gifts of my property to my heirs. So basically giving the property and things if she had heirs to those heirs, like I guess acting as like
this the for Gypsy.
Yes. Yeah. So acting like the what is it when a person dies and you're the person in charge of the estate? What is it?
Executor of the will.
Executor. So like acting as the executor to make contributions to religious, charitable, and educational organizations, and to make contributions to political candidates and organizations. So it was 4 things that it covered. So basically it was saying, I can make decisions for you medically. I can make decisions for you with property and taxes. I can make decisions for you. Basically, I can make decisions for your heirs as far as what they get and don't get, and taking care of them if you're disabled. So Gypsy says she never signed this. However, it's been alleged that it was forged. But then I don't know. I mean,
it was never even filed either, so it was null and void anyways. But Gypsy didn't know that.
Gypsy wouldn't know that.
Gypsy didn't know that, and DeeDee held this over her head as a, ha, I've got this, you can never get away.
And see, there's no signature from Gypsy actually on here. There on any of these. There's witnesses. There is supposedly a notary public, that I actually called to verify if she worked for that law firm. She said they did not have somebody that worked for the law firm with that. And to know it has a stamp but no seal. And so as a notary public, the only way for it to actually be real is to have the seal. And it's like a crimped seal. If the stamp is no good, it has to be both. It has to be the stamp and the seal together for it to actually be a notarized document.
Right.
So yeah, exactly. So
but Gypsy would have not ever known that.
No, she wouldn't have known any of those things. And so I think, how do you feel like DeeDee would have held this against her, Diana, and how she would have used it as psychologically speaking?
Psychologically, it was a way of saying, I'm in control. You're fine. I mean, even if you go get a job, money's mine. Haha. I'm in control of you medically. If I say you're going to go to this appointment, we're going to go to this appointment. You're going to say what I tell you to say. I'm going to speak for you at those appointments. Pretty much your opinion and what you say doesn't matter.
Right.
It was a way for her to say, you're going to do this or else, pretty much.
Jesus, here it's even listed as she had the right to vote for Gypsy.
Yeah. Political, yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. Because once she was over the age of 18, she would be able to vote for her.
I would think that it would be her way of also keeping Gypsy under her thumb, in a way of saying, if we have this paperwork, if we get caught, I'm reliable, not you.
Yep.
Sure. And I think she used it in a way of, I also think though that, maybe, and she probably at that time used the way, if Gypsy did sign it, the conversation was probably, if you sign this, then you're not culpable of any of this stuff that I'm doing if we get in trouble, because we know that Gypsy knew at some point in time. And I was reading an article, about this child who began to figure it out. And she said she really kind of started figuring it out about 12,
Right.
And that what she did was, but then she had no way out, because this person is the only caregiver. You are reliant on them. So you just, in the study that I was reading too, was that they will begin to do their own reporting of things that are happening to them, knowing that it's a lie because it's pleasing to the parent.
Right.
And that it continues it because it's what's expected. And so I originally questioned about Gypsy. Gypsy had said, well, doctors never spoke to me, but then we found in records that they had spoken to her directly and notated that she had said things, and for the eye exams and things like that, she had to actively participate. She actively admitted to participating in the, the hearing aids and getting all those and the hearing tests and stuff. But reading this, this document from the psychology journal. That was the psychology journals. It was talking about how these children just begin to start to do it of their own validity, because it's
they develop a codependency behavior.
Exactly. Yep.
And when people become very codependent, they automatically start guessing what they need to do to please other people. And they do that just because that's all they've ever known how to live.
Well, and it garners them favor with their abuser, so they think that their abuser will not abuse them as often, and there's definite manipulation, and there was absolutely, I do truly believe, intimidation from DeeDee in all of this. I mean, she's a very large woman. Gypsy is a very tiny girl. That was domineering.
And we still don't know all of the abuse that took place behind scenes.
No.
I mean, I would be willing to bet there was some physical abuse that went on that she's probably never going to talk about because it's too painful. And I can't blame her for that. Been there, done that myself.
Right.
But, we don't know what fear there was there.
Well, and we've talked about the shed before, and I'm getting ready to post that video, the discussion we had about the shed, and that Gypsy alleges, that she was locked in the shed at numerous amounts of times with no way out and everything. And whether that happened or not, I mean, there's some questions on both sides. I mean, there's definitely questions of, if it had been during the summer, how would she have been locked in that shed with no ventilation? It had a little tiny thing in the window and stuff. But I mean, if she was chained up, I get it. Overnight, it might not have been as terrible as far as weather conditions,
Right.
But if you look at that shed, I mean, it's very clear that she spent time there, and there were things that restrained led us to believe that she was actually, tied up and restrained in there.
And it wasn't made for a child her age.
No,
not at all.
Definitely not. And there wasn't it's not even like it was a playroom of the past. Like if you
it was nice and clean and neat compared to the rest of the house.
Right?
That is still the most mind-blowing thing to me, is the house looked like absolute crap, and that shed was
the bathroom was immaculately clean.
Well, yeah, you're right.
The
but
bathroom
there's dust this thick.
Right.
bathroom, the medicine cabinet, all the different things that you would think about were actually used and actively hurting Gypsy.
Else, nope.
Yeah. I mean, even the kitchen was sort of very organized, but I mean, there was a lot of crap around it, but the organization of the cabinets was very organized.
Right. I mean, you had a spot for the sippy cups and a spot for the plates and a spot. Yeah.
And so I think a lot of that psychologically played into what Gypsy did or didn't do, you know. And like you said, I mean, she's mentioned being hit. She's mentioned being starved. We've talked about the malnutrition that was actually documented in
that there is, you can almost prove that just by the time she was in jail. I mean, as soon as she went into jail, she started maturing and putting on weight like a woman that she didn't look like for years. So that
she got the curves and all.
She got the curves and all. I know.
And so that to me shows that her mother was probably starving her.
Yes.
I mean, I have no doubt. There's no way, because most people don't start maturing and looking prettier when they go to prison.
Right. It's normally
right.
Yeah.
And I think the power of attorney has to be really played into a lot of this, and thinking about what Gypsy's mental state was. You know, she tried to run away. She was actually brought back. You know, and the guy she was with, her mother threatened him with statutory rape, even though she actually was over the age of 18.
Yeah.
But she didn't 100% know. You know, she thought so, but there were so many different birth certificates she didn't know. You know, and so I think that power of attorney was really held over her head a lot. I think
I will find you.
Yes, and I think that was what went into her head. We talked about this with Colleen. I said the same thing, was that even if she had left with Nicholas and gone to Michigan, her mother would have still made terrible things happen to her, and probably would have caused a bunch of problems and gone and got her. And I mean, she didn't hide where she was going, obviously. I mean, you know, if she'd ever talked to Aaliyah, she would have found out. And if she'd ever applied for, you know, a driver's license, anything like that, her mother would have found her. And if she'd gone to her father, I think that would have been manipulated in a strange way too, especially considering that he had allowed it to happen for 23 years already. So now the manipulation would have just morphed into something different. I really don't think that she would have escaped, like we said, unless there was a guy who was like, I'm going to take you, we're going to disappear to another country.
To Canada, we're going to Mexico, let's get on a plane, something.
Yeah. So I think that
really go.
Right. And so going forward, you know, I wanted to talk about some of the patterns we've seen with Gypsy's behavior, and what are the common things that many of the children who suffer from, you know, this type of abuse, in what they end up having in their later life. And so some of the stuff that we had seen was a psychological impact of victimization and significant and chronic display of these behaviors. So they have basic problems with attachment. They've got relationship building and social interaction problems, attention seeking behavior and concentration issues, oppositional disorders, reality distortion, poor self-esteem, lying, attachment difficulties with adults and peers. And although they appear socially skilled and superficially well-adjusted, they struggle with basic relationships. So we've seen a lot of this. Hang on. I'm sorry. My visitor is back. Ugh.
Down.
Joins us each time. So, I mean, we've seen a lot of these behaviors from Gypsy.
Oh, yeah. I'd say almost all of them, if not all of them.
Yeah. I mean, the only one that I can tell that maybe she doesn't struggle with is the poor self-esteem. But I think that actually comes out is what she wrote me was very overly confident, which I felt was kind of masking the actual low self-esteem, because a lot of people that have the low self-esteem,
I would say she has low self-esteem.
Me too. Yeah. I think she has very low she's never had a chance to build self-esteem.
Exactly. Right. And I mean, as much as I'm growing this soft spot like y'all are for Nick, Nick is also sick.
Right.
For her to have found that kind of attraction within him, I think also has to show that some of her low self-esteem.
Well, it also is seeking out what she knows, and so for her, it wasn't weird that he was the way he was. It wasn't,
or that it wasn't online or anything like that.
Right.
that was a naive thing for her.
Well, and she's done it with Ken as well. I mean,
Yes.
I'm not saying that Ken's a bad guy or anything, but let's be honest. A person at the age of 26 to 28, a guy who's a bartender, he's halfway decent looking, he's somewhat funny. I mean, I've had conversations with him. He's not terribly dull, or
Right.
he's got a personality. Do I think he's controlling? Sure. Do I think that he's obsessive? A little. I don't think he's a good match for her, obviously. But I think that it speaks again of a guy that would be, in this position with this personality, with the looks that he has, at the age that he is. Why is he seeking out a relationship with some girl in prison that he's never met before? And I'm not saying that, people can't have relationships with people in prison. Obviously they can. But the fact that they had no prior contact is what is the concerning factor in that. He's seeking this out. And she even talks about, she talked about her very first time she met him in person. He got her in trouble by sneaking a kiss. And she knew from that moment that was the guy for her. Really, in one little peck on a cheek in a freaking middle of a room where you're in with all these other people visiting prisoners, that was your that's kind of weird.
She doesn't have any true understanding of what relationships are.
No.
On healthy
fairy tale movies and stuff.
Right.
Which is reality distortion.
Right. She didn't have a true relationship with her dad because of everything that had happened, how her mom kept him away. And I mean, even the relationship she had with her mother was insane.
Right.
But, I mean, and so she's trying to develop a relationship now with Christy and Rod, and the best that they can. I mean, that's hard to do in prison. You only get so much time.
Right.
But
she's never, outside of Nick, has never had, and what little bit she had with Aaliyah, she's never had relationships with people.
With anyone.
Anyone.
Yeah, not even friendships.
Right. Not even a girlfriend that she played Barbies with. She's never had that. And so she has no concept of what that is, and she needs to learn that. That's something that.
Well, and her mother drilled into her head, you're never growing up. You're never going to have the relationships that anyone has. You're never going to get married. You're never going to have children. You don't get to have a life. And not only did she drill it into her head, she drilled it into everyone's head around them. Because, I mean, like Kim Blanchard, one of the first things she said to, the first responder was, Gypsy's never going to be normal like the rest of us. She's never going to have relationships and grow up. She's going to die. Well, shit. I mean, so obviously going forward, and we see these patterns of behavior, and we've tried to highlight them before. And I think people misunderstand the fact that we're highlighting these behaviors is that we're bashing her. I'm not bashing her. I'm simply stating these are patterns of behavior that she has and she's going to have, and she has some serious issues that may never get fixed no matter how much therapy she does.
Well, I feel like her pushing on her new relationship with Ken and all that, I think her pushing that is her way of giving her mother the middle finger.
Yes.
Yeah, because she said you would never do
this. Well,
so guess what? I did. I mean, but even going in with the play, like y'all were talking about, I mean, she didn't even get to go through the basics of learning how to interact with others.
Right.
Like, I mean, there's a process as you age on parallel play, cooperative play, individual play, everything like that. She didn't get to do anything like that. Even with her being sick, I feel like DeeDee even took that isolation to an extreme. Because you see kids who were sick at St. Jude or wherever still sitting around playing with each other. I have never seen a picture of Gypsy playing with other kids.
No, well, there is the thing where she did the dance class or the cheerleading. But if you watch that video, she lays on the ground. Yeah, and she's laying on the ground.
5?
Exactly.
She's laying on the ground. She's not interacting with the other children.
And that was before she was sick, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then there was some of the Special Olympics and the Gumbo Games.
Yeah.
I've talked with a childhood friend that knew her back then. And she said, she tried to get to be close to Gypsy. She really thought she was, but now she's looking back, she realizes she really wasn't.
Yeah, she didn't know her.
And that Gypsy, was never left alone with her. She couldn't go to get they invited her for, hey, can we take her in our car? We've got room. We've got a way to put her wheelchair in there and everything. Can we take her for ice cream? We'll bring her back. No.
She was a helicopter parent. DeeDee was a
Right.
helicopter parent.
Then the interaction with her cousins was strange because just as she would feel like maybe I can play with my cousins for a minute, her mama would come back out and she'd drop down and
to the floor.
You know, spaghetti legs.
Yep.
So she was always, yeah. I mean, so if you think about it, okay, so we've got problems with attachment. Most definitely. You know, relationship building and social interaction.
Doesn't have it.
She doesn't have it. Didn't have it.
Because you can't just read that stuff either. That's something you have to learn and process. You can't just read it in a book.
Attention-seeking behavior. We've seen that.
Yeah.
And you know, the thing is with her, I don't even think she realizes that she is attention-seeking. Yep. Because she says to people, I want privacy. And she says it over and over again. And I think she
leave me alone.
As she's publicly saying it, getting attention.
I think she truly believes, she thinks she wants the privacy. That's why she says that.
But she doesn't.
At the same time, she's not doing the things that would enact privacy.
Right.
Like, you know, a person who wants privacy doesn't then go and announce an engagement is over that nobody knew was over. And then 2 minutes later, turn around and say, oh, wait, back on.
Yeah.
That's attention-seeking behavior.
No. Yeah, because if she really didn't want the attention, she would say to the media, okay, it's over. And then in the background, go still get married.
Not tell us.
She wants to do. You ain't got to tell the whole world.
Well, nobody had asked about her engagement in the first place for months. So for her to announce that it was over, all that did was bring attention to her and Ken instead of taking attention away. And and then, you know,
and then when that attention fizzled off, now we're back together again. So now we're starting to fizzle that off. It'll be something else again soon.
Well, it was, because then Brandy and I brought up something that was said in a Facebook group that we didn't even say. It was not us. In fact, one of her very good friends was part of that rumor.
I specifically said I read in another group on Facebook
that she was going to do this Playboy thing. Well, you know, and her sending me that crazy letter talking about the fact that, my big booty
said it too.
Lord.
Like, why would you even acknowledge that? But then again, who the hell is telling her that? Because why are they telling her?
You ain't got access to Facebook in the prison.
Right. So why are they telling her these things, and why is it something that is you're upsetting her? Obviously,
to get attention. I mean,
if they keep her riled up, then attention is brought out, and more people are looking, and more people are talking,
and more people are interested, and more people may give.
An endless cycle.
And there's now talk of, you know, a family who just said, we want this all to end, blah, blah, blah. Now I've heard that they're considering doing a life after prison type of reality show. How is that? We want this all to end.
It's not. It's the exact opposite.
It's the exact opposite. Thank you. Okay, so oppositional disorders. Do you know, can you explain some of that and how maybe you can see that in Gypsy?
That one is a little bit tricky because it really depends on what they meant by that.
Okay.
Oppositional, some people word it as defiance. If you look at it that way, I can definitely see that.
Definitely, because, you know, she made that letter about talking about the fact that she doesn't want anyone's advice, not even her family's advice, if you know, because she's never been able to make decisions for herself, which I get. But advice is advice. That everyone gives advice. Every parent guides a child, no matter what. Yes. It is your job to then take the advice and say, yes, I either want to feel it or I don't want to do this.
Exactly.
Doesn't want the advice at all. You know, I see that as defiant.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, even her relationship is defiant. She knows everybody is against it. Right. She knows that because it doesn't have anything to do with I do or don't like Ken. I personally don't even know Ken.
Right.
But I know Gypsy needs to work on herself right now. Right. That is where Gypsy is. And until she can work on herself and truly love herself and come to terms with what happened to her, she doesn't need to be with anybody. I don't care if it's Ken, Nick, you know, go down the street.
It could be Charlie Hunnam, and I'd be saying the same damn thing.
Exactly. And
well, Dr. Phil said it. I mean, he said the same thing. The only thing that she's going to bring to a relationship, right? Oh, the only thing she's going to bring to a relationship right now is toxicity because she doesn't know herself. She's got
to come with terms with what happened to her too.
And she's not done that. I mean,
No.
he's been
And
around.
she can't where she's at. Well,
No.
and she won't where she's at.
No.
There's
Not
hope there that she won't get.
Not even if she gets a psychiatrist in there once a week.
Oh, no.
It's still, she's around other people that have these types of behaviors, which are going to follow these types of, besides the fact that she is in prison and has to survive. And so she has to put up a certain amount of front and things. And either she's being taken under the wings by certain people because they're they see this weakness in her, or or she's got to be this tough girl who's going to take care of herself. And so, she's never going to get better in prison, obviously.
No. Same time, they're going to be exploiting that in prison.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, they have.
Her story.
Right. They have. We've seen the letters.
Exactly.
Where they have.
Well, we've also seen that she's had inmates that have taken advantage of her by asking her to, put money on the books for them, and then then they'll get it because they couldn't get more on their books in a certain day and everything. Like, I mean, she's done that. The thing is that, she is going to have a hard road to hoe no matter what happens. And one of the things that we talked about with the Munchausen by proxy expert that we talked about, is her saying that she had never in her entire time of being an expert in the field, years and years and years and years, I mean, decades long, ever seen a child who had been through something this long standing being able to go on and live a very productive life. Right. They just have so much that they can't overcome because it's just
got an uphill battle.
So ingrained in her.
It's a lifetime's worth of hurt, of abuse, of continuation of the cycle. I mean,
I didn't even have near the abuse this poor girl's had. Not near, not a fraction. And I've gone through 15 years of therapy.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
Not even close. I can't even become.
And you still won't ever be over it or be past
I still have reactions.
That doesn't happen. Even the bit that I've been through, you can forgive, but you can never forget what you went through. And she can't even honestly fully forgive her mom because her mom's dead.
Right.
That step has kind of been taken away from her.
Right, because I made that step just before my mom passed away.
Right.
Real forgiveness. Like, my kids had been around, but my kids had been around for a little bit. I mean, my oldest daughter was 6 at the time that Granny passed away. When her granny passed away, and she had been an amazing grandmother and all of those things, but I had to get over the things that had been done with my mother and I. And I felt like I had just got to a point where I was at a good place with my mom, and my mom passed. And that was what spiraled me into that next depression.
Because you had just gotten there. You had just gotten to that new step with her.
Yes.
And then the whole new history you could have had with her was taken.
Yes.
And Gypsy can never get that.
No.
She can never even get from her mom, and it's okay.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Well, the thing that healed me the most was my mother saying she was sorry, and that she had validated that she made mistakes. And
that I'm sorry. I know what I did was wrong. I'm sorry. I wish I could change things, and I love you.
Right. And see, that's one of the issues I have with my father, because my father doesn't make it. He won't own it. It's basically
make an effort.
The only thing he's ever said, is I am sorry, I didn't try harder, but your mother kept me from you, which is the same relationship that Gypsy has with Rod.
Oh yeah, we've had this conversation numerous times. That's not an excuse. You knew where your kid was.
Right. And even Rod now is kind of taking the easy way out. I mean, he basically said one time to her, "Hey, I wish you wouldn't get married in prison." And then she said, "Well, I'm doing it anyway." And he went, "Oh, all right. Well, I tried. I said something."
That's
not what a parent that wants her to get better would be doing.
No, that's having a conversation, showing them research, showing them studies. Trying to get her.
My oldest is 30 years old, and anytime something's going, if she's watching this, she's going to kill me. Anytime, and I won't, she'll be all right. Anytime something's going on, and she'll come to me for advice, and I always tell her, "Do you really want the advice?"
Right.
I tell my kids when they're screwing up, even as adults, I tell them quickly, "Don't do this. This is stupid. Make better choices. You need to do ... And if they choose to do their own way, my oldest is real quick to come back and say, "Why didn't I listen?"
Right. I should have done what Mom said.
Why? Mom's always right. And I love that. Mom's always right. Ha,
exactly.
Yes, I am. And it's something, even at 30, she still says, I wish I'd have listened to you back then, because I still scream at my kids as adults. Are you crazy? Don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 27, and I tell my parents all the time now, if I'd only listened to you back then, I wouldn't have made all the mistakes I've made. But I had to learn on my own way. Right. But the thing is, I mean, there's some things that Gypsy still needs to learn that she hasn't learned that she should have learned.
Right.
By now.
I mean, she had years of it being taken from her, not getting the chance to learn under normal steps as a teenager that we learned.
Exactly.
You know, at 15, sneaking out the house or talking to the boy you're not supposed to, and she didn't have that. So
I mean, she does. Yeah, I mean, because she went from the relationship with Nick, going into prison, now having this relationship with Ken. Both of them being long distance, you know, whatever you want to call it. It's not the same kind of way to learn somebody. It's not the same, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I've done it. But she needs to be able to go through that stuff.
Right. That infatuation you have with the new relationship, when you're long distance, that infatuation stays very much, oh my God.
Yes.
You're face to face with that person on a daily basis.
Yes. And you have the stupid petty arguments.
Right. I mean, about what we're going to watch on Netflix tonight. I don't want to watch that.
Or put your clothes in the hamper. Or who's cooking dinner tonight.
I can't tell you how many times I have that argument with my husband. Look, I'm tired. Well, I'm tired. Well, I want to eat. Well, I want to eat.
Right.
We don't have that here because I'm the only one that cooks. So.
Fine. We're going to McDonald's because I'm not cooking and you're not cooking. So,
so what are we going to do? Yeah, ours is the hamper conversation.
Oh, the conversation about the hamper. Do you know how many times I've tried to tell my husband a million times because I have sciatica, so every time I have to bend over, it's harder for me.
Yeah.
So, but he leaves his trail of clothes everywhere, and I'm like, Craig, could you at least just put it all in one pile so that I could possibly?
I mean, even if one pile here, one pile here, one there.
Even if I make it so long, at least put it in one pile so I can pick it up.
We've been married so long, we don't even know what we argue over anymore.
I'll get there one of these days.
At this point, it's like, what were we arguing about again? Yeah, I mean, we don't.
What was it this time?
Right. So, you know, I definitely think she's got, you know, definitely the reality distortion too. I mean, because this is to her is reality. Is. This is reality to her.
Was reality to her for years.
Perfect example of reality. Right. Perfect example of reality distortion is way back when she thought Facebook group stopping would stop the media from harassing her.
Right.
But at the same time, she was encouraging the Facebook groups to argue by sending these emails.
And then it was also, people were calling the prison. That was just insane that people would call, come talk to Gypsy. What the hell are you?
She's also
like that's not how that shit works.
She's also sending out emails addressing them to my dearest and closest friends. Honey, you ain't got no dearest and closest friends.
Don't trust nobody, honey.
Right.
I know I said that really ignorantly, you know, like you ain't got no. I'm just around there, but she does not have any close and
right.
No, she doesn't need to know people like that. Mm-hmm. It's sad.
Oh, and then the lying. I mean,
yeah,
she's gonna lie and manipulate. She's going to lie and manipulate forever. And that is something that I think that's the one thing that I think is going to be ingrained the whole time.
I don't think you can't get rid of.
Any amount of, no, I agree.
That's one thing that you can try. It can be not as bad of a lie. It's just a little white lie now instead of a snowball of a lie. But once you've been raised like that, where lying is normal and lying is what you do, I mean, that's going to take a whole lot of actively thinking about it all the time to reverse that. And I don't think it's even humanly possible.
I don't either.
Not for anybody.
Yeah, I don't either.
Once and we've raised that way.
We've seen it come up a couple of times too with the fact of one of the statements that this was so funny to me that this was something that was concerning, was she made the statement of, after what I've been through, I should be crying and shaking and curled up in a ball in the corner, and yet I think I'm really well adjusted. And I was like, oh my God.
I'm glad that's what you think well adjusted is.
Right, because just because you're not, rocking in a corner, honey, that's different.
Not mean you're okay.
No.
That's nowhere close to meaning that you're okay. There are different levels. Yes, you are not a zombie in a straitjacket sitting rocking in a corner in a padded cell, but you're also not totally carefree. And I mean, you're in prison, honey.
Right.
I mean,
well, and the line through the interrogation video was
God, that's what changed everything.
Mother's murder, you're not okay.
No,
it was like this, I mean, it was from one lie to the next lie to the next lie with no breathing. Like,
but just sitting there too the whole time for those hours, just waiting, eating her sandwich, going to sleep,
talking about Disneyland
and Harry Potter. I will never understand. Never understand how nobody in their right mind, knowing what had just happened, being part of what had just happened, can sit there and be okay with that.
Even Nick showed different emotions and things and talked to himself. Oh crap, am I going to be in trouble? What's happening?
Right. No, she just sits there.
Right.
The only time she ever got upset was when she realized, oh snap, they know.
Right. And that was after she was laying on the floor listening under the door.
Yes.
That she was like, oh, yes. I'm a lawyer.
I mean, okay, and that's the thing. Wait a minute. That was where honestly, for me, the fact that last like little 6-minute bit right there where she lays on the floor and she asks for a lawyer, and that to me showed how much she actually did understand things.
Yes.
She tried to sell the stories for as long as
she realized she couldn't.
It was immediately,
give me a lawyer. Yes. Right.
Which, why would she, I mean, if she was so, like some people are claiming that she was so sheltered and blah, 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 then why would she know? Why would she know to do that?
She know to ask for a lawyer.
Nick never asked for one. He never asked for one.
And he had more emotion things than she did. I mean,
right. But with what he has with having Asperger's or however they're labeling that, he really shouldn't have had much emotion at all, but he had emotion.
Too much for him to process.
Right.
To process enough.
Right.
To realize, oh snap.
Yeah, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. There's no way out of this.
Exactly. I need to just go ahead and fess up and get in front of it. He had enough going on in his head to tell him that.
Right.
And she never did. Never.
She just, not till it snowballed too far, and that's exactly the example that he used was, honey, you're snowballing it. We talked about this snowball.
Right.
But even with the snowball, she never once admitted her part in it. She talked about that she had talked with her mom about him and they weren't agreeing about, which really is.
Nick didn't like my mom.
She didn't like she wanted better for me. She talked to him on the phone, which she claims that never actually happened. But now as you're seeing that she's saying that it did. So that's interesting. I mean, basically it was just a lie upon a lie. That lie didn't work. Oh, okay. Well, let me tell you this.
Let me try another one. Let me spin it this way.
Right. Well, let me try another one. And then when it finally came down to it, and he said, look, I know. And he gave her the opportunity. That's when she said, nope, I'm not going to say a dang thing. I want a lawyer. Well, honey, you've already screwed yourself.
Yeah, you already done, like he said, snowballed this way too far.
And then in the end, she learned every bit of that from her mother.
Yeah.
Yes. She learned how to manipulate.
Right. That's all she knew.
She learned from the master manipulator.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So guys, I mean, we talked a lot about that. I did promise that we would give a little sneak peek though into the next case that we're looking into, which I'm so excited about.
It makes me so excited too.
I know, because this is something that we have a lot of experience with. It's cyberbullying. It's text, how words can impact a person to do certain things. It's mental health. And so I did, let me see, I got to pull it up real quick. I did a post about it and it was not my idea. That's for sure. I saw it in a group that I was in.
And that was a really neat post how that person did that. And I was like, oh my God, I never thought to look at it this way.
I really like
it. It's very eye-opening.
So let me go down here and
very excited.
Okay, so this is the post I made. I said, this is not my own observation. I found it in one of the groups I'm a part of, but man, is it super poignant. I never even thought about it this way, but this is definitely something we are going to be looking at when reading the text between the two teams. And we're talking about Michelle Carter and Conrad Roy. So Michelle's code word for commit suicide or kill yourself was to do it. Example, are you going to do it today? If you look through the text, you'll find 161 instances where do it appears. Not all refer to killing oneself. Yeah, but most do. And almost all in his last day do. If you were to substitute the words do it, which if you think about it, that's not that bad, right? Just do it. Nike said it. Just do it, right? Just do it.
But when you put the context behind it.
Separate it and you substitute do it for kill yourself. The final day takes on a much more ominous tone. So here's a text from the day, and it says, Carter. So this is Michelle. If you want it as bad as you say you do, it's time to do it today. Conrad. Yep, no more waiting. Michelle. Okay, I'm serious. Like, you can't even wait till tonight. You have to do it when you get back from your walk. So here's the text if you substitute kill yourself for do it. So Michelle, if you want it as bad as you say you do, it's time to kill yourself today. Conrad, yep, no more waiting. Michelle, okay, I'm serious. Like, you can't even wait till tonight. You have to kill yourself when you get back from your walk. When you look at it this way, it's chilling. And
it literally brings tears to my eyes.
It is. And it shows, I think it also shows how desperately disturbed she was.
They were both.
Right. And
both seeking and needing help.
And he, you know, the parents in this failed him. Again, this is another case where the parents failed. The mother says, we had no idea. He tried 4 times. How can you have no idea?
How can you not know?
Her parents didn't know all about, you know, like, yeah, she had some, you know, she was taking different mental things, but they weren't getting her the right proper care. Yeah. You know, and the drugs that she was on were serious drugs that should have been very much more given better. Monitored.
Monitor her a lot better than they did with the
And if you look at her in any of her court appearances, there is absolutely nothing there again.
Yeah, it's a mask. It's like, where's the real Michelle Carter?
There's no emotion. There's no nothing. She is literally just a walking zombie.
Yeah. And it's everything.
There's not even sad, happy, any kind of emotion about it. It's literally just.
Right.
Nothing.
And so I feel like, I mean, I have a mixed bag of thoughts on this, and I've looked at a couple different things. I looked at all the text messages between him and her.
It's been a while, but I've seen them all.
I've looked at some of the things, and we posted this in the Patreon account today. I posted all the different ones between him and her and all of her friends. The only ones I don't have are the ones between her and his best friend, and I do know that those exist. I just don't have them in that document yet. But anyway, what I was saying is you can definitely see that once she have experienced her own bullying and cyberbullying and dealing with that and trying to fit in. And I think that was what she was using this as a way to for people to pity her and feel bad for her. But yet, I mean, we don't have an actual real proof of that, whether she did or she didn't tell him to get back in the car. So
because all we have is what she told a friend she said to.
Yeah. But definitely, I mean, at worst, I mean, I think at best this would be an assisted suicide, because she knew for months, never did anything to get him help. And, you know, so that's what
even encouraged him to continue to do it.
And that's how, and what is going on in your head that you think that is the way to support somebody? So somebody tells you every day they want to kill themselves.
So just go do it. Just forget it. Go do it. I'm done.
Do it.
But on the same token, though, I mean, he was extremely belligerent and manipulative of her for putting her through that every day. I mean, we've been through this with our own experiences of people that we've tried to help.
I was in the middle of an episode and threatening to hurt myself, and somebody literally went on Facebook and a few other social medias and called me a drama queen.
See, and that's because
it was 2 years ago.
Suicide is not. People don't see it as a serious thing as it is.
Well, when I had my episode, I was sitting on the bed and I had poured. My husband and I were fighting. I poured the pills out into my hand. Yeah. I was sitting there. I was looking at them, and my husband dared me, because he didn't think I would. And he thought daring me would make me see my own stupidity and put the pills back in the bottle. And instead what I did was,
make you go, okay, let's see how many I can take.
But then again, I think about him saying that to her on a daily basis, though. I'm going to do it. 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 I'm sure the same thing with her. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to kill. Okay. Then the only way I can support you, you're obviously hurting. You're obviously messed up. Her answer should have been, let me go get somebody to help you. Not,
can I call your mom? Let me call your mom.
Yeah, let's go talk to somebody together. Let's go talk to a counselor together. Let's, you know,
come see me. Let's go sit on the porch.
Let's go for a walk. Let's go for a drive.
Right.
I mean, there's so many other things that could have, should have been done.
Right. All right, guys. Well, we've got about 7 minutes left. I'm going to kind of shamelessly plug right now. So if you guys enjoy what we have to say here, you're going to want to follow us on all of the socials. They'll be down in our description. As well as we did just, you know, we closed our by proxy discussion group based on some different decisions with some of the problems we'd had, you know, with other groups. But we do have a brand new discussion group that's just all true crime related, discussing different cases. And you guys are welcome to come in there and kind of participate. That's True Crime Dish on Facebook. We'll actually link to that too. And we'll be taking a lot of our episodes for the podcast from the discussions we have in that group. And then obviously, if you want to support us in our journey to make our podcast, our series, and this YouTube channel, obviously, you can go ahead and support us at patreon.com/truecrimewives. We put a lot of the information that we have, the documents that we have. We'll do live videos in there that are exclusive. You get early release of information. Early release of our YouTube videos once we're able to start doing that. We haven't been able to do that yet, but we are going to be able to. That's why we're recording earlier and earlier. But we've got all of those different things for you to follow along with us. We all appreciate your time and that you come and listen. I know we talk over each other a lot. We're impassioned women.
We just got a lot to share.
We got a lot to share. We got a lot to say, and we get excited.
Personalities too.
Yes, we do. We do. And our podcast is being edited. The trailer will come out. It'll probably be out for a month or two before we do the actual podcast itself. So that's being edited and should drop within the next 2 weeks, probably 2-3 weeks. I would say we'll have that out. There'll be some little clips of it.
We'll know more by Friday.
Maybe. And if you have any questions about this case or any of the other ones that we talk about, you can always email us at goodwivesdish, DISH, @gmail.com. And we will.
Or if there's a case you want us to cover, send that to us.
Yes. And we will feature your questions on one of our lives. So, guys, thank you so much for coming and joining us this evening. Have a wonderful Wednesday. Hump day! All right, guys. Thanks so very much. Bye, guys.
Bye, ladies. Have a good one.
I'm going to end the recording.